You are so cute. Quit messing with Mama's bowls. What is it? Hey y'all, it's me, Gina, and I wanted to take a minute, hopefully just a minute, to do a little video piggybacking off of what we were talking about this weekend. I've been very active on my social media this weekend about this particular issue, so if you are not following me on Facebook, that's where I've been posting most of my posts and videos about this. But basically on Valentine's Day, 2 pharmacy personnel were shot at a Walgreens trying to do their job, the pharmacy manager and a technician. It was a very, very horrible and horrific situation. But we've been having some conversations this weekend about what pharmacy workers face on a daily basis when it comes to retail. So if you guys are not familiar with retail pharmacy, good for you. But what happens in a retail pharmacy is that you've got your pharmacists and your technicians trying to fill your medication. They're talking to doctors. They're trying to transfer from other pharmacies. They're calling insurance companies. They're counseling patients. They're giving immunizations. They're running the register, the drive-through, answering the phone. And a lot of time they're doing this with very little help in the pharmacy. So it's a very stressful environment already. So your pharmacy team is most likely already stressed out. And while we try to give the best customer care and patient care that we can, sometimes we're a little bit stressed out. Patients are a lot stressed out, and we understand that. But it can make a situation go from tense to completely fearful in a matter of seconds. I need to quit saying So when I was in retail, okay, now let's back up. I've been a pharmacist since 2005 and in the pharmacy field since 1998. So I have a good bit of experience. More than 3/4 of my experience in pharmacy is in retail. On a daily basis, I would get screamed at, yelled at, cussed at. That was just something that happened every single day. Very commonly, it would be threats. I would be threatened physically. You would have somebody threaten to call the cops. You'd have somebody threaten to have a lawyer and sue you. You would have people waiting outside of your car when you got off work. They would threaten you with weapons. Whether they had weapons or not, they would threaten you with weapons. I've been spit on multiple times, had things thrown at me. Just a constant berating of not being able to do my job or them saying I wasn't able to do my job. It's just a ridiculous amount of abuse that pharmacy workers face, and that includes the technicians. And it's not right for either party, pharmacists or technicians, to be threatened or abused while they're trying to do their job. I did an interview with WRAL about the abuse that I faced in the pharmacy, and then followed it up with, a few posts about what was going on. And I'm very vocal about the things that I faced while I was in retail pharmacy. And I'm going to go through some of the comments that I had. I did a post on this, but I'm going to elaborate just a little bit and try not to make this video an hour long. But I wanted to go through some of the comments and points that I saw people making. One of the first ones was, I had no idea that this happened in the pharmacy or to my pharmacists and technicians. And the short answer to that is, that means A, you don't work in retail pharmacy, and B, good for you. You're obviously not one of the people who are going in there abusing and yelling and screaming and threatening your pharmacy team. And since you're not a butthole, you assume that other people are not going to be buttholes and do that either. But they do. You're actually probably one of the patients that we love. The vast majority of patients that we deal with are great and they're wonderful, and we know sometimes it gets stressful, so even those great patients will have a moment where they get frustrated or angry, and that's to be expected. But there is a portion of our patient population who are just outrageously rude and do abusive things, and they threaten, and it's scary. But good for you for not being one of those people. But now you are aware that that happens in the pharmacy, so maybe if you see somebody treating your pharmacy staff like that, you want to just be like, hey, calm down. Or you can just be a little more mindful if you get very frustrated, to try to be a little more sympathetic to what the staff is going through. The second thing was that it happens in all of healthcare. It's not just isolated to pharmacists. It happens to nurses. It happens to doctors. It happens to med techs. It happens to your EMTs, medics. And the answer to that is absolutely. You're absolutely correct. It happens all throughout healthcare. Violence in healthcare, there's no excuse for it. It's appalling, period. I don't care what your job is. You should not be abused while you're trying to do your job, especially when you're trying to provide some sort of health care to a patient. I would venture to say, and I don't know the statistics, that out of all of healthcare, nurses are probably the one occupation that is probably abused the most, especially physically. I have family members that are nurses, and they are amazing, kind, loving, gentle people. But to hear some of the stories they tell me about their day on the job, it's horrific. You know, getting poop thrown at you, your hair pulled, kicked in the ribs, cussed at, screamed at, people trying to bleed on you on purpose. Things like that are just utterly ridiculous. And I'm very much an advocate for there being a no abuse tolerance policy in healthcare. The reason we're focusing on pharmacy right now for this particular incident is because of what happened to our colleagues at Walgreens, and because I'm a pharmacist, so I can speak directly about my experiences and what I went through. And if I tell you about something that happened to somebody else in healthcare, it's just, you know, me relaying what they say. And I have no problems relaying stories of people who, you know, are scared to speak up or don't want to speak up. But in this moment right now, we're talking about pharmacy and pharmacists. But in general, violence in healthcare is ridiculous. You have people trying to look after you and take care of you and make you healthy. Don't abuse them. Don't threaten them. I don't even know why you would. I get you're sick, especially ER nurses. You're sick, you're in pain. That's still no reason to abuse the people who are trying to help you. And I will fight every single day to help my fellow colleagues in all of healthcare to deal with the abuse that we face, because it's just, there should be an absolute just no nonsense, no tolerating that kind of behavior, period. One of the other comments, and probably one of my favorite ones, is you make enough money, so you should just be spit on and deal with it. That kind of comment is just ignorant. I don't even know, there's really no words to say to that. Pharmacists make good salaries. We do. We also went to school, most of us, 6 to 8 years. We have our doctorate. We have a lot of school loans. And we are salaried for the most part. So if you take what we make annually and divide it by all the hours we work, our hourly wage is not nearly as much as you would think it is, because most of us work a lot and we only get paid per what our base salary is. So like minus 40 hours, I could work 60 hours a week every single week all year long, and I would still get paid what I would get paid if I worked 40 hours. So we don't get paid nearly as much as you think. Contrary to some people's belief, most of us are not driving BMWs and Jaguars and living in mansions with pools and hot tubs and saunas in them. Some might be, but most of us are not. So this statement is just asinine. You also have to realize that technicians are on the front line a lot of the time. So they're the first one to get these angry, yelling, abusive, threatening patients, and they don't get paid that much. They definitely do not get paid what they're worth and their value to the pharmacist. And pretty much any pharmacist should tell you that if they had the choice in what to pay their technicians, they would be paid a lot more than they're paid. But they definitely don't get paid to deal with this type of situation. It's just an asinine statement to think that you get paid enough for somebody to threaten you or abuse you. It's just rude and it's dumb. Let's see. The other comment that made me really angry was, I wonder how rude the staff was in that store where these people got shot, or my pharmacy staff is always rude, so I can understand where that guy was coming from. Just don't. That comment should never be made, first off, and it definitely should not be made under an article where 2 people were injured. So even if your pharmacy staff is rude and you could understand why this customer was frustrated, that is not an appropriate comment to make to me in any sense, but definitely not under a post where 2 people were hurt, seriously hurt. And you have to think, like I said at the very beginning, is pharmacy is stressful. If you go in there and your pharmacy team is sitting around doing nothing, I would like to know where this is happening at, because everywhere I worked, and I worked a bunch of places, we didn't have time to do that. Your pharmacists don't get breaks. We didn't get a lunch. You barely have time to go to the bathroom. When you do get to go to the bathroom, you get bombarded by patients asking questions on the way there and back. If you try to sit down to eat in the back really quick to scarf down some food, like it's 5 o'clock and you haven't even eaten breakfast or lunch, somebody gets mad because you're just sitting down and they're having to wait for their prescription. So it's a hectic environment. So yes, your team may be a little rude to you. If they're rude to you all the time, my suggestion is to call corporate or to find another pharmacy. There is literally a pharmacy just about on every corner. So you are not stuck. Even if your insurance dictates you can only go to one place, there's a lot of those one places. So it's no excuse to get so frustrated with your pharmacy team that you're threatening them or abusing them. Is the fact that their day is very stressful an excuse for them to be rude to you all the time? Absolutely not. You may have rude encounters. I hate to say it. I consider myself a very kind person most of the time. There were days that I was rude to people I shouldn't have been rude to, and I quickly realized it. What these patients did was pointing out to me, hey, your attitude is not great. I'm just here trying to buy my medicine. Could you be a little bit nicer? You're acting a little bit rude to me. And it made me flip my attitude around because I realized I was being rude to the wrong people. On the flip side of that, you have to figure out how you're approaching your pharmacy staff. If you're coming in with a bad attitude all the time, as soon as they see you, they're automatically going to be defensive. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I'm saying that could be what's happening. You need to look at it just like we have to look at how we approach patients. But the point of this is that it is never okay to put under an article where somebody was shot that you can understand where this person was coming from because your pharmacy staff is rude as well. That's just not okay. That makes you an asshole. You might have to bleep that out. But it makes you an asshole. Another one that kind of flips back to the healthcare one is that it happens to everybody that works in retail. It's not just isolated to healthcare or pharmacy. I get it. I go shopping, I go to restaurants, I see people act like buttholes all the time to their wait staff, to their servers, to people trying to ring them up. People are buttholes. They feel like they're entitled enough to be buttholes, and it's not right. I don't care if you're fixing somebody's coffee, if you're ringing up somebody's sweatshirt, or if you're taking somebody's order at a restaurant. Nobody has a right to berate you or abuse you or threaten you at your job. They just don't. And it shouldn't be tolerated in any form to any person, in any capacity, in any occupation. But right now we're talking about pharmacy. And the big thing about pharmacy is that I get it. If you make somebody's coffee the wrong way at Starbucks, I can see somebody flipping their lid and cussing you out and it not being appropriate. But more than likely, your job and your life is not threatened every single day because somebody wants to steal your coffee because they don't have access to it. In the pharmacy, we have the drugs. All the drugs that people want, that people cannot get now with the way the laws are set up, and they will do anything to get those drugs. So with the opioid crisis, the laws are getting stricter on what can be prescribed and how much. I'm doing a lot with my hands that you probably cannot see. But the laws are getting stricter, and the more strict they get, the more fearful it is for us to go to work because people want this medicine. And if the doctor says no, they know that it's at the pharmacy. And the only thing standing between this person who really wants these drugs and the drugs is me and a very flimsy gate. A gate that I could kick down myself, a counter that I could climb over, and then me. And most of these drugs are locked up, so these people can't just push me to the side and go get the drugs. They need me to get them out. So it's a scary thought, especially if you're working overnight and you're the only one there. Somebody comes in and they want those drugs. They can hurt or kill you in the process to get them. I'm not trying to say that the abuse in pharmacy is worse or should be stopped more so than abuse in any occupation. It's the fact that even at the bank, the money is stored in a vault. It's not behind the bank teller. While I'm having a conversation with an angry patient who can't get their medication that they want, all they're doing is looking behind me and knowing that that medicine is back there. And that's scary. I'm not going to lay down my life for medicine. If they want it, I'm going to help them get it. But that is a scary thing that happens. What's even more scary is in this situation, it was not even a robbery. When somebody is hurt in a pharmacy or there's a shooting in a pharmacy, the number one thought after, oh my God, I hope they're okay, and just feeling absolute terror for the people involved is it was a robbery. It had to have been a robbery. It had to have been about controlled substances. And when you find out it was not, and that it was over a cough medicine or some other type of medicine like that, it hurts even worse because not even now are we having to be fearful of the medicine that people want to steal or that people can't get. Now you're almost scared to just go up and approach a person and say, hey, your insurance didn't cover this. Hey, I had to call your doctor. He didn't call back. It's not ready. Hey, you know, they're giving you a medicine that's this. I know that's what you want, but that's what it was written for. It's almost scary to tell them, because in pharmacy, especially in retail, you never know if you're one angry patient away from being harmed physically. And that's a scary thought to go into work. I know police officers know that that next traffic stop could be the one. But in pharmacy, we don't go into work thinking, oh, today could be the day that I get shot. But we do. But that's not how it is. We should be like, oh, today's the day that I'm going to go in and make a difference in somebody's health and somebody's life, and I'm going to take care of my patients and my technicians. It should not be, oh my God, if I approach this person, are they going to hurt me? Because that's what it's coming down to. And your pharmacy, I'm going to do a whole nother video on this, but your pharmacy doesn't have control over nearly as much as you think they do. You think they have the all power of getting all this stuff accomplished in the pharmacy, and we hold very little power, to be quite honest, and I'll do a whole nother video on that. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was, why aren't more people speaking up about this, and why aren't more people talking about what they experience as far as abuse and violence in the pharmacy? And I'll tell you, the number one reason is fear of retaliation from your job. Let's say wherever you work, if you decided to go on social media and post the way that your job mistreated you, or you didn't feel safe, or you didn't feel like you were appreciated, your job could very well see that and fire you. That's the big thing in pharmacy, is you don't want to speak up because you don't want to lose your job. And I get some people are like, well, if it's that bad, why don't you just quit? Like I said, pharmacists have a lot of debt. We have a lot of school loans. You can't just quit. And there's not that many. I mean, it's not like the workforce is overflowing with jobs so that all these hundreds of thousands of retail pharmacists could just quit and go somewhere else. And you need your medicine. Somebody has to be there to get it for you when you need it. But they can't speak up because they're in the middle of it and they don't want to get terminated. The people who actually get out of retail, who want to get out and who are lucky enough to get out, they're so happy they got out that they don't want to think about it. They don't want to relive it, and they definitely don't want to talk about it. So I'm in a unique position right now to where I work for a company that I feel very secure at, very safe at, and that actually gave me, the okay and the support to talk about my experiences in retail. So I'm willing to sit here and talk about this so that we can stir up enough commotion and enough awareness, just so you know what happens in your pharmacy. The other thing about this, and this is a big one, is that it gets to where it's commonplace. It's an everyday occurrence that you go in, you go to work, you come home, and you're like, oh God, I got cussed at 14 times today. Now I'm going to get ready to go to bed. Or, I had 2 customers this week waiting out for me by my car at 10 o'clock when I got off, angry because I didn't give them their medicine. Those are situations that just become a daily occurrence or a weekly occurrence. And I said in my post on Facebook, I would come home and tell my parents about these horrific things that happened to me and my technicians while I was at work. And they would be horrified, to the point that, my dad would want to come and follow me home from work to make sure that nobody hurt me. But after a while, they got as used to hearing it as I was used to experiencing it. And I would just come home and be like, oh yeah, somebody spit on me today. And they were like, oh, no, that's bad. And then we would just keep eating, because it's become a commonplace for that to happen. And if you read any of the comments under my videos or my post or the news post or any other pharmacist that shared this and post about it, almost everybody in retail, the technicians, the pharmacists, are like, oh, yep. That sounds just like my day. She's not wrong. It happens all the time. And that's sad that we've gotten to the point that that's how it is. My main point of this was just to address some of the issues and some of the questions and concerns, to let you know what goes on in the pharmacy. Like I said, I want to do a couple videos to let you know what typical day is like, what pharmacists have control over and what they don't. And just to bring it to the forefront of your attention, especially when you go into the pharmacy, that this is what we're dealing with. 2 days before this shooting, Walgreens in a neighboring city to this was robbed overnight for drugs. Forcefully robbed overnight for drugs. And it is a scary time, and it's only going to get worse. Like I said, the more strict the laws get on us, the worse it gets for the pharmacists and the technicians that are trying to police these laws. We are not the police of these laws, but in the end, it comes all the way down the line to the pharmacist. If the doctor writes it incorrectly and it makes it to the patient all the way down to us, they think they can get it because the doctor wrote it. When you can't. If it breaks the law and it goes against the law, I legally can't give it to you, but I'm the one that has to give you that bad news. And you may be sick, you may be in pain, you may be having a horrific day, and then I break that one piece of news to you that you can't have it, and you just flip. So, and people are making this a mental health issue. They're saying that if you didn't pick a profession where you had to deal with people with mental health issues and mental disabilities, you wouldn't have to worry about this. It's not those patients. It is not people that have mental issues. It's not people with mental disabilities that are causing these problems, that are doing the abusing and the threatening. It's just regular everyday people that are mentally healthy that are doing these situations. And the only other thing I will say to that is we are to the point that, mental health is still a very taboo subject to talk about, and you don't want to admit that you have mental illness or mental difficulties, and that's not okay too. Those are things that we need to feel free to talk about, just like we would, I have diabetes, or I have an autoimmune disorder, because they are all health conditions that we need to work on finding a solution and a treatment for. But I just wanted to point out that it's not an appropriate comment either, because those are not the majority of the patients we have these problems with. So be sure you go check out my Facebook page where we've been having a discussion. I want you guys to join in the discussion. If you want me to bring up some of your stories that you've experienced, I won't say your name, but I will definitely bring them up so we can bring your situation to light. Please be mindful of your pharmacists and your technicians and try to be respectful, basically, of everybody in general. I posted today, it costs $0 to be a kind and respectful person, and that's the truth. So just make sure that you're nice in your daily dealings to people, and maybe we can all get through this, but I don't really know how to end it now. It's just sad. Say a prayer for the 2 people that were injured and the people in healthcare that are injured and hurt every day. Just keep them in your mind. Send them some positive thoughts and prayers, and I will see y'all next time. Stay sweet. Please stay sweet. I'm done. I don't know how long that was.